Hello, cyclocross friends, and welcome to episode 151 of Cyclocross Radio. On today's show, it's another Cat 5 show. What's a Cat 5 show? That's just me, and it's under 45 minutes. At least that's the intent. That's what we're shooting for. That's how much I have to say. What is on tap for this episode of Cyclocross Radio and the Cat 5 show? A whole... do you know it's Seinfeld's 30th anniversary? It's 30 years since Seinfeld premiered. And that was a show about nothing. And this is a show about nothing. That's what we're talking about, nothing. But regardless, we're going to get it out here. And here's how we're going to start and why we're doing this. Why I am doing this Cat 5 episode today. I had another episode of Cyclocross Radio that I could have posted, and it was after the Road Amateur Nationals, and we had a great team up there working on announcing and media. It was myself, Bruce Buckley was taking pictures. Scott Herman was out there on the mic, along with John Hoop. He was out there too on the mic. And all four of us were after 4 full days of working for USA Cycling, covering that event, basically from like 6 a.m. to, 2 a.m. There were some long days. I was like, hey, I got the mixer, I got the recorder, I got the microphones. Let's record a podcast. We all sat down Sunday night after just being completely exhausted. Couple beers, and it's never going to see the light of day. It can't. It was one of the most fun I think I've had talking into a microphone ever, but it made no sense. There were things in there that you didn't want to hear. There were things in there that if you did hear them, it just would have embarrassed all of us. So for the sake of everyone involved's reputation, that one's just going to be kept on the hard drive. Maybe snippets someday. Maybe I'll go through there, but to be honest, I don't even want to listen to it. So that's why I don't have a recorded episode. And that's why we're going to talk about some other things. And what I really wanted to focus on today, and this is not cyclocross specific, but it kind of is. And what it is riding bikes in general. And I know a lot of you are like, oh God, we've listened to this at least 1,000 times on different podcasts. Riding fixes everything. Riding's great. This is why we do this. Riding. But that's not the tack I'm going to take. Because the truth of the matter is, for me, for the past 4 or 5 years, has it been that long? I have not enjoyed riding bikes. There have been times I've hated riding bikes. I quit racing. I was never a very good racer. I was a Cat 3 cyclocross masters racer who could, smell the front of the race in Mid-Atlantic and East Coast B races. My goal for most of the race season was, when we used to, before cross results became the way that most series around here staged riders. Before that happened, it was by series points, and my goal from year to year was just to be in that top 8 so I could be on the front row to start races. It wasn't like to win races. I would hope to get on a podium, but it was basically be consistent enough to stay in that top 8. That was my goal as a bike racer. But to get just to that average level of racing. I worked my ass off on it. I was training, who knows, like 15, 20 hours, I don't know, putting in all of this time, like every weekend. When it wasn't race season, it was, 60 miles on Saturday and 80 miles on Sunday, and doing intervals during the week. And just, I was 187 pounds at 6'5", which just seems insane right now when I'm 205 pounds. And it was this huge part of my life, and not doing it, a part of me is like, oh, that's great. I have all this free time, which I don't. I just filled it in with other stuff. But that's not the part that I hated when I was in it. And this is not to say that it wasn't important. It was very important to me. And I have complete empathy for all of you for training hard and going for those goals, because I get it. It was huge for me. And I don't look back at that time at all and go, oh, I wasted all this time on this stupid sport, just, racing for what? For some gels and maybe a 6-pack of beer. I don't look at it like that at all. I loved it. I mean, good Lord, I wouldn't be here where I am right now if I didn't love it. That was the entry for me to do what I do now. That was the entry for me to be able to sit here and talk into a microphone and have you maybe care about what I'm saying. Or maybe you've already gone and then you won't even know. It's fine. I understand it. But that was kind of the impetus, and that's what got me into it. And it's sort of this, I look at the rest of my life, and this is sort of this thing that I can see in different facets of it. I mean, I look at what I do now. You look at the means and the ends, and the means to get to the end where I'm at now was trying to race a bicycle at some point at as I said, not a very high level. But without that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And in my other job, I haven't practiced law for 20 years now, yet I couldn't do what I do for the company I work for if I wasn't an attorney. They weren't going to hire me without being an attorney. So even though I don't do the main thing that I was trained to do, I've been able to benefit from it in what I think a much greater way that I'm much happier in. And I see that as in the same way with my bike racing career. That's ridiculous. My bike racing time, that it was well worth it, but I'm probably more satisfied with what I'm doing now that I got from that start, that I made all these connections through that I was able to become, the director of Mabracross when it was that, and then when it turned into the Super 8 cyclocross series and all that, and I think it's now the Super Series from there. Those were things that were built from that racing, that I was able to stick a camera onto my head and, film videos, and that turned into Svedness and turned into cyclocross television and cyclocross radio, and being able to work for teams and do all of this amazing stuff, see the world through that Cat 3 racing. I've been able to travel the world because I did that at that level. So from there, just amazing. But getting back to where I started with, and I know that some of you fall into this same place, is that it came a time that I got onto the bike. I tried to race a couple years ago, and it was like, finger quote, fun. I was just going to go out there and have fun. And I have this beautiful Zanconato single speed, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna race in a single speed because that's where people have, again, finger quote, fun. And I didn't enjoy it. I was out of shape. I was at the back of the field. I had people heckling me, which is fine, and then I also had the sympathetic, oh, you're doing great, cheers, which just, If you have any level of pride, that is not a thing you want to hear. If you've ever been like fighting, even at the B, the 3 level, the whatever, in a race that you thought you were competitive in and able to have a chance to win, to come back to it and be at the back and wanting people to have fun and give you hand ups and do all this kind of stuff. I couldn't let go that at one point I was much better at the sport. So this whole just kind of go groove around on the track and have fun never clicked with me. That's not to say that a lot of people have a great time out there, and good. I'm glad. Thank you. Continue to do it. Come out to DCCX and race multiple times and have a ton of fun. I will be there cheering you on. But for me personally, it didn't work. And then it even got to the point where I had put so much time into training on a bike at an low-level amateur level. I didn't like it anymore. I didn't want to ride my bike. It got to the point where I was running, and I enjoyed that more. Just try to just grasp that concept. I enjoyed running more than I enjoyed riding my bike. And this went on for quite some time, but just recently, I think the tide is starting to turn. The last couple rides I've been on have gone awfully. They have been one disaster after another. I took my cyclocross bike out, and it was the hardest ride I have ever been on a route that I have been on 1,000 times, and I just was like, holy cow, how am I in this bad a shape? My heart rate was through the roof. Even without a heart rate monitor, I knew that. I could not move. I got passed by 5 different people, which, just wouldn't happen normally. And I was just like, this is just, I'm awful. And I put it out on Twitter, actually. I was like, it was one of those rides that you really hope that your brakes are rubbing, and that's what's making it so hard, but you're also scared to actually check for fear that they aren't rubbing and you're really just that bad. Now, I finally got off the bike and spun the rear tire, and it didn't move. It was just completely stuck. So I was like, okay, at least that's okay. And then, full disclosure here, not a surprise to anybody, I'm not a bike mechanic. And when it comes to disc brakes, and all of you people who hate disc brakes, yeah, this is one of those things where I was like, I don't know how the hell to fix this. And I started toying around with it a little bit. And then it got to the point where it was spinning freely, but then I went, okay. And I, pulled the brake lever, and it just went all the way to the handlebars and didn't stop the wheel at all. So I basically had no rear brake. I'm sure Scott Diedenbach, if you're listening, is probably going, well, Bill, you just had to do X, Y, or Z, and you would have fixed that easily. I don't know any of those things, so I just got back on my bike and turned around and went home with only a front brake. But I got home and I was like, all right, that was okay. I'm going to go ride again tomorrow. And I did, and I took my road bike, and this is horrible because it's one of these things where you shouldn't have 7 bikes and have none of them that are actually operational. It's embarrassing. It is truly just embarrassing. Like my Le Mans from my Zurich Le Mans from 2002, it is the bike that works. That's the bike that's my commuter bike. It's got the flat pedals on it. I take it everywhere. It's got the the locking skewers on there, so I don't have to worry about people stealing my wheels, and we can go to shows and go out to eat with my wife and do all this kind of stuff. And that's the bike I ride. Errands, whatever. That bike works perfectly. That bike has I think the original cabling maybe from 2002, still just like rolling right along. Absolutely no problem. And again, I wasn't going to go for longer rides on that. I got this nice road bike, and I took that out, and I actually switched out the chain rings on it because my good friend Taylor Jones was looking at my chain rings, and because my chain kept slipping off the big ring, and he was like, well, you may have wanted to change out your chain rings, let's say maybe 3,000 miles ago. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had those, and I was like, well, I can do this. So, so I like just to get everything. I took the cranks out, cleaned everything up, changed out the chain rings, probably didn't tighten the bolts enough. I don't know. They seemed all tight, put it back in there, went for a ride, and it was just the worst, just clunking noise I rode. I did this ride with my wife, and she was nice enough not. If it was me and somebody else had that bike, I would have been like, I'm turning around or I'm going ahead because I cannot listen to this anymore. But she is a much better person than me, and hung in there, and we went for this ride, and I was just like listening to this whole time, and it was just, fingers on a chalkboard, and we got back, and I was like, oh, that just was not a good experience as far as that bike goes. But then I was also like, all right, didn't hate it though. Even there, two less than ideal experiences in the same. And not to mention that both of these rides, it's like 95 degrees and you can just drink the air in DC right now. So just miserable conditions, and I wasn't hating it. And I'm like, okay, this is a good thing. So again, I put the bike up in my stand, my feedback stand, and took off those cranks. And I have this other set of almost like new in box, first generation SRAM red cranks. And I moved the chain rings over to there, put it back in, and went out for a ride today, and no noise, perfectly quiet. Nothing was rubbing. Had a really nice ride. It was not fast. I don't know how many watts I put out. And that's the most important thing about that ride. When I put those new cranks on, what I did was I took off the Quark power meter. And even to this day, even though I haven't raced my bike in 4 or 5 years, maybe longer than that, I still had the power meter on there. And I still would calibrate it before every ride. And I still would record that power, heart rate, everything. And I took the power meter off, and I realized I don't need it anymore. I'm still going to record every ride. I like having those numbers, but I don't need the power. There's nothing to do. Power, especially at the age I am now, is not a motivator. I can look back 15 years and look at that power, and it is at least 100 watts higher, 150 watts higher in any kind of interval that I'm going to do. I'm not doing any intervals. So why do I have it? But it was just this thing that I was hanging on to. I was like, this is part of riding bikes. I have this power meter. I need to record this stuff. I really think that was getting in the way of some of the enjoyment I had in actually riding the bike. So it's gone. No more power meter. Haven't shaved my legs since like last summer. Not stressing about it. In the years past, that would have been like, I'm not wearing any bibs. If my legs aren't shaved, don't care. Not doing it. Perfectly fine with it. You want to look at me sideways out of that and think I can't handle my bike because I don't shave my legs? I'm fine with it. That's cool. All good. Also, the big beard and long hair. I'm that guy now. like grandpa bike rider. I went out and rode my mountain bike. And I wore baggies. And I loved it. It did all of these things. And I never thought would happen are now happening. And I'm okay with it. But I would have never gotten here without actually doing racing the bikes before. And it's not like I said career by accident, and it sort of kills what I'm going to say now, but it's like, I didn't retire from anything. I never had a bike racing career. I went out there and like schlubbed along in the top 15 of a B race and was happy with that. But now it's all, I can just move beyond that. And it's just coming to grips with all of that. Coming to grips with and I really think it was the power meter. That was kind of the last straw. And it's kind of turned the corner for me. The next step and this is where it's still going to be a challenge, because I'm still not at the point where I want to ride with people who I used to ride with. And that's a big part of it too, because it's different from not wanting to be competitive or not wanting to, worry about all of the numbers. It's still no fun being the last guy on the ride. And you can say whatever you want, that you can say, and every group's like, oh, we're not going to leave anybody behind, and, it's no big deal, but when other people are waiting for you. Well, some of you know when other people are waiting for you. Some of you probably always off the front and don't have to worry about it. But if you've been up there and been just cruising along with people and all of a sudden they're at the top of the hill and looking at you and you still got like 20 seconds to get there, that's not where I want to be. So still some work to go before we get back to riding with other people. But we'll get there. But regardless, having fun riding a bike again. All right, we're about halfway through our race here in this Cat 5 race. I will tell you this. One of the ways that I think that I am going to get back to where I want to be, where I'm comfortable, just as like a dude with unshaved legs riding his bike, but still secretly wants to know some of these numbers, is not through how many watts I can put up, but more about maybe how much sleep I'm getting and how much exertion I'm doing in this newfound rekindling of my love for the bike. And how I'm doing that is I got one of these Whoop straps. It's the Whoop 3.0 strap. And serendipitously, a good thing happened. I have this thing, and Whoop is also a sponsor of not only the Wide Angle Podium, but of Cyclocross Radio. So I ordered the Whoop 3.0 strap, I subscribed, and now I am starting to record. I'm just 1 week into this. I used the discount code CXHairs, got 15% off, subscribed for a year. That came out to about $50. I was very happy with that. So that was a nice bit of savings. And already I can see, it has, again, we're talking about motivation. This has motivated me to get to sleep because I have this thing on my wrist telling me I need more sleep. I'm that dumb that'll motivate me. I'm hoping you all are in the same state. I'm not calling you dumb. You're much smarter people, but it's something that you can see in graphs, in colors, if you are how you are going to perform throughout the day. If you're not getting enough recovery, if you're putting a lot of strain on your body, you're going to look at that number, it's going to be red, and you're going to be like, oh, this thing's telling me I need a day off. I'm going to take a rest day. I'm going to take it easy. If it's yellow, you're like, all right, you can go out there and do your thing. And then if it's green, it's like, you better get out there and crush it because you are energized and you are ready to go. On the basic level, it's as easy as that. And then you can sort of dig more into the nerdy numbers from there, which is also fun. I get a kick out of that. So go to whoop.com, get the Whoop Strap 3.0. It's got a lot of upgrades to the hardware that are, from the last one that they had. It doesn't cost you anything to get the band. It just costs you to subscribe to the service. And Again, 15% off CX hairs at whoop.com. It's a really cool system. You should go and get it. It tracks your heart rate. It tracks your sleep. You put in your activities in there, and you're good to go. You know, it's not going to replace other data collection that you do, but it really complements it. So get on that. When I was out in Carson City covering the latest Epic Rides, which is great series. I'm sharing with you these revelations. These are my revelations from the week, and this is another one that came up, and it's something that I've kind of struggled with for, I'd say, also, man, ever since, as I said, I started making these little films with it wasn't even a GoPro, it was a contour camera that I strapped to my helmet, would sit there and record a lap, and then put that up on Vimeo, and that's kind of how I started in this whole video thing, and from there it's been awesome. But what happened in the last couple years is that I got more into the filmmaking part of it, and I don't even like using filmmaking. When I did this short film about the Belenky Junkyard race in 2011, and somebody wrote me this lettered email telling me that actually that's a video, it's not a film. You didn't actually have a film camera, there was no film stock in there, you just made a video. And I'm like, all right, I'm a filmmaker, it's a videographer, does that work? Sorry. So since that time, but despite that, I still got into this whole thing about, all right, when I put these videos out, I want the production value to be really high. And then you go from there, you're like, I want to like have all these cool shots in there, and it's just gonna, you know, pan from left to right, and we're gonna get like sliders, and we're gonna like pull in and out, and all of these cool things that, you know, you can go learn about on YouTube about different video techniques and how to, you know, you start with your establishing shot, and then you can have, if you're doing a cowboy shot. What's a cowboy shot? Well, that's a 3/4 shot just above the knees. Why? Because then you can see the guns in the cowboy. That's where that came from. Things you learn. And I was obsessed with that part of it, about having to get all of these, you know, make these kind of little mini masterpieces that you can never really do, and nobody in the end cares. And the struggle came between doing that and just covering and analyzing a race. And what I realized is that's what I'm okay at doing. Like, that's kind of the end goal here, is I want to show you all what happens in a race. I don't care what kind of race it is. It can be a mountain bike race. It can be a road race. It can be a cyclocross race. But that's what I think the thing that I do the best, is being able to break down a race and present it to you and show you the cool parts of it and maybe some of the strategy that went on. Yet I still wanted to be a filmmaker and you know, have these grand stories. And there are people that are really great at doing that. And what I learned over this weekend was I was working with a guy who's doing a documentary on one of the parts of one of the teams that I'm working with, and just spending time with him, what I loved spending time, and I learned a ton. And he's walking into different places, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, well, what are you thinking about? He's like, well, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to use that fire pit into this shot when I, you know, interview this guy. And he's like pulling his camera through bike frames and doing all this amazing stuff. And I'm like, I admired all of it so much, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't think like that. That's not what I do. I've been like carrying cameras around for a long time. I've been filming people for a long time, but it's never, I just don't, that's not my mindset when it comes to making these films. And it was revelatory because I finally was able to say, I don't have to do that. I don't think it matters. I don't think people care. So that's kind of the new goal going forward, is let's just show you all what's happening in a race like I've been doing and keep that same level. I want these to be the highest quality videos for this upcoming cyclocross season that you all have seen at this C1 and C2 level. I'm not going to be Sporza. That's impossible. It's just a pipe dream. But I want to get to a level where I can have at least one other person, possibly two other people helping me film this video. I can have live commentary over top of it. So you're not going to get a live stream, but what you are going to get is a video at the end of the day that is basically live on tape. It's not tape, it's digital, it's not film either, that you can then watch and get the whole story of the race. And that's it. And it doesn't have to have any of these fancy, sliders or expensive gear other than what we already have that gives you a great image and gives you a look at what is happening. And I don't have to be a filmmaker. I can just be a presenter of sport. That sounds almost worse. Yeah. But here's the thing, like what I just told you, all of that, I came up with while I was riding. And that's the thing that I kind of missed about going on these rides. We'll do it for the runs too, but not the same way. And I think probably if you were on this ride with me and inside of my head, what I just sort of rambled on about for the last 30 minutes, I did it much more eloquently then. I'm just trying to recreate what already happened. But that's coming full circle. What's got me stoked about riding the bike again? Here's the other interesting thing. And here's how I break it down. Is that I like to use this time also, like when I'm on the bike, I like to listen to podcasts. So I will do that. And what I've learned is I will do that for half of the ride. Like today, I listened to the Wide Angle Podium founder, Spencer Howe, on the Gravel Lot, which is on the Wide Angle Podium network. And the conversation that Doug and John had from the Gravel Lot with Spencer was awesome. Go to wideanglepodium.com and download that. It was a great conversation, and I work with Spencer. I'm his partner in the Wide Angle Podium network, yet I was inspired by this, and I was stoked to hear how he thinks about this because it's freaking awesome. And it got me motivated to A, talk to you all today, because I wanted to make sure that we got an episode out, but also just to kind of tighten the screws a little bit and make sure that we're doing all we can to put out quality content. That's why I just went through this last 15 minutes of what am I going to do this cyclocross season to give you the best content that I can. And that's all part of it. So that's a whole nother facet, and that was this second part of it. Like I listened to that podcast and I just shuffled the iTunes after that and was listening to music, and that's where this whole thing started. That's where the brain just takes over and goes. I never bought into riding fixes everything. I thought that was way, way, way too ambitious. Riding cannot fix everything. It is impossible for it to fix everything. I understand it. I understand people that say it. Riding is great. Riding is it literally has helped people saved their lives. We know that for a fact. If you listen to the last Dirt Field recordings, tragically, Robin Heitman, they lost their life, but they also had their life saved by cycling. It's this cruel irony. So I get that. But to say that it fixes everything, I think is overshooting. It can put you in a better place to resolve anything that might be wrong. But I ain't gonna fix it just by turning those pedals. It's just not. But I still think you can get a lot of good stuff, a lot of good thinking done on that bike, and you can come up with amazing ideas. I still haven't figured out how to actually catalog those ideas. I mean, I try to get home, like I wrote all these notes after I got home about things I've thought about, but I can tell you while it was coming out, it didn't seem as rambling as it is now. But it's something that I'm glad has come back. And I'm glad is part of a routine that I'm going to make a part of my of every day. It's something I used to say that I got away from, and it actually started in the gym. It started back when I was playing basketball and knowing that I had to like get into the gym, and even from a young, I mean, this was like high school and beyond. It was like the way that you do this. I don't know who told me this. Maybe I came up with it on my own. I doubt it. That you have to just make that your job. That's part of your job. That's what you do every day. And it can be like recreational stuff can be part of your job, but you have to make it or that time just goes away. So from now on, I'm putting that in there. Riding bike now, again, part of job. So I have to go and do that every day or whatever days a week to make sure that I do my job every day. Some of the other things I thought about on this bike ride, all the things that pop into your head. I'm not going to get it into now because this race is quickly coming to an end, but I can tell you coming up, if you're looking for more specific cyclocross analysis and into the weeds, thinking a lot about the CX Talent ID camps that USA Cycling is hosting, and I have a lot of questions about those. Apologies ahead of time to my friends at USA Cycling. You will be getting an email with all of those questions, and hopefully we'll be following up on another episode soon about these talent ID camps and what the intent is, what the process is, and all of that kind of stuff. And that, I think that probably is about all I got. Yeah. I just, bottom line, it's the riding the bike. Happy to do it again. And then also just the unshaved legs and the baggy pants and the not having to be a filmmaker. Those were my 3 revelations of the last couple days that I wanted to share with you. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you is, and this all goes along with it, it's all this process of growing up. And part of growing up is thinking not only about yourself, thinking about your family. So if you're married or you have kids, and making sure that you and your spouse are doing what is best for your family. And one of those things that you can do is get life insurance. And one of the best places to do that is through the Wide Angle Podium partner, Health IQ. Everything that I've talked about up to this point, about what I've been doing, about riding the bike, getting back on the bike, about the mental health, all of that, all of you know that. And you also know that just riding a bike promotes a healthy lifestyle, and Health IQ is looking for health conscious people. It's right there in the title, because you're a better risk for them. And that means lower premiums for you. And Health IQ can help with that. To learn more, go to healthiq.com/WAP for Wide Angle Podium. WAP. healthiq.com/WAP. You can take a quiz. You can think about running or whatever else you want. I take it about cycling. I'll bet all of you ace it, and then you'll qualify. And you fill out some forms. They'll talk to you, and you're on your way. But we'd love for you to check it out. We'd love for you to at least get to the point where you're going to healthiq.com/WAP. It means a lot to us at the network that we can provide our advertisers with our audience that wants to support the things that help us continue to do what we do. The last thing before I let you go that I want you to do to help us in a similar vein is go to wideanglepodium.com. I don't think I've done a good enough job about just really going over everything that we are doing at Wide Angle Podium. Again, check out Spencer's episode on the gravel lot. That'll give you great insight, but also go to trekcxcup.com. Go register for a race. We are the first and only podcast network ever to host a World Cup cyclocross event. It seems insane. It seems outrageous. I still can't get my head around it, but we're it. We're sponsoring a World Cup. That's pretty cool. We don't do that without the support of all of you. We've partnered with Roller Derby, which is, you got to go check it out. Even if you don't know really what the heck's going on with it, go check out the Let It Ride feed on the Slow Ride podcast, because they sort of go into the different propositions and what you can bet on. Will there be a livestock related incident at the Tour de France? You can bet on that. It's not real money. It's just points. So you're not losing anything. But the cool part about Roller Derby is if you go through wideanglepodium.com, you can get 500 bonus points. And then you're already ahead. You're already a winner before you even start the game. So go do that. Go to Wide Angle Podium, sign up for Roller Derby. I'd love for you to hit the donate button. And then once you get to there, you can, there's a lot of different levels that you can give per month or just a one time. The per month actually gets you more of the swag, and we like that model more. It comes out to the same amount of money from lump sum to just, you can give $5 a month if you want, or 10, or whatever you want to do. And the nice thing from there is you're able to then check off what shows you want to support. If you want to support this show, if you want to support the videos that I do, there's an MTB heat check and cyclocross television box that you can check. If you want to support the Slow Ride podcast or the Consummate Athlete or Bike Shop CX, they're all there as well. Check out the Parts Bin. That's kind of our incubator for new shows. We're really trying to grow. We're trying to give you all a little more variety in what we have to offer. It's when I go on the Wide Angle Podium Slack channel and I see all the hosts in there sort of scheming about new shows that they want to do, that makes me really excited, because I want to see what those shows are too. So check out the Parts Bin and check out the coffee. Go hit up Dan at Grimper Brothers and buy the full Schleck or some of the Hello Cyclocross Friends coffee. That goes a long way to helping us continue to do what we're doing as well. All of these things. If you want to get in touch with me and say, Bill, no more of this Cat 5 stuff. Get to the meat of the cyclocross. Let me hear it. It's okay. I can take it. Or if you got any questions, any feedback, any comments, any ideas for future shows. Some of you all have emailed those to me. If I have not gotten back to you, I apologize. I'm going to be going through that inbox and replying to everyone. So we'll get that taken care of. But I love getting your messages. Follow along at CX Hairs on Twitter and on Instagram. And also, if you got a minute, go over to YouTube and check out youtube.com/CXHair. Subscribe over there. We got some more heat check mountain bike videos that will be working their way onto that channel. And sooner than you know it, we're going to start transitioning over to cyclocross. And I'm super excited about this cyclocross season. It's a lot of what we talked about on this episode, and really, really looking forward to getting rolling and showing you a whole new way to watch domestic cyclocross. All right. Thanks for sticking in there. We'll talk to you next time, cyclocross friends.